There we go. So we are officially recording. And guys, I just want to thank all of you for taking your time here today to look at what the heck is all this about. We have a lot of demands on our time these days, and we'll try and be efficient. We've got half an hour here, and we just want to give you the important what, where, and how of polarity analysis. What is it? Why would I use it? Why would anybody use it? And I want to start with a quick remembrance of Heiner Fry. I met Heiner Fry at the Liga conference in 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. I can't remember exactly when, maybe 2014, 2012. In Paris, and Heiner was presenting the results of his research study that he had just published on kids with ADD with an 84% success rate. And at that international conference, people were blown away by two things. One was the careful reliability and quality of the research, and the other one was the breadth of Heiner's vision about polarity analysis. And basically in his presentation, he said, there are things that we do that make homeopathy more reliable and easier. There are things that we do that make homeopathy less reliable and harder, more time intensive, more extensive, more difficult, more uncertain. And he said that his goal was to move us all toward the easier, more reliable, more efficient, better outcomes. So, oh gosh, it's so good to see the names of all of you folks here. Hey, Joyce, nice to see you here. Okay, so hi, Ruth. All right, so as homeopaths, basically what Heiner said was, what do we want? We want clients to work with us. We want those clients to get well, and we want to work efficiently in the time that we invest. So, you know, for those of you here who have been in practice for a long time, oh, hello, Suzanne. I saw your email. Maybe we can answer some of your questions today. Otherwise, I'll reach out to you directly. So if we want to work efficiently in the time that we're investing, we don't want to be spending all weekend, every weekend, trying to do our analysis of cases from clients that we took cases of during the week. We want to be able to do our work in an efficient way. And so the key question that Heiner was presenting was, what would assure us of the most reliable results for clients? What are the most reliable indicators for people to get better? And how do we do that efficiently? So if we're looking at what is polarity analysis, it's a method. It is a method of doing homeopathy, a way of interacting and getting information from the client, of assessing that, and of effectively choosing a remedy and giving it to them. So it's the same thing you've already been doing with an adjustment in efficiency. So it's based on Benninghausen's therapeutic pocketbook. Now, for those of you who might not be up on your ancient history in homeopathy, Benninghausen was a contemporary and a very close ally of Hahnemann. And he actually published a book of over 600 cured cases of epilepsy. He was an incredibly efficient and effective practitioner, and he created his own repertory, which is the therapeutic pocketbook. And this was the repertory that Hahnemann preferred to use. And while he was doing all that, he created an important awareness around symptoms that kind of started some big fights within the homeopathic world. And Hahnemann supported Benninghausen's strategy of looking at the general experience of the organism And by that, I mean, how is the organism as it deals with whatever morbific influences, whatever challenges it has, how does it deal with its disruption, its dis-ease? And what Benninghausen said was that adaptation to things like sensitivity to cold, to heat, thirst, appetite, body movements, body positions, time of day, the various kinds of challenges that the person was happening that were being expressed generally through their life were the most reliable indicators. That's how he found effective remedies. So he looked at symptoms differently. A symptom has components, like if somebody says, I have burning pain in my lower right abdominal quadrant, and it's worse passing stool, then the components that Benninghausen would have seen in that is that the person has a burning nature of discomfort. They've got a location, which is a lower right-sized quadrant, and they've got a modality, which is worse while passing stool. Now, Kent put all these things together in his repertory that he built, which became the foundation for lots of other repertories. And Benninghausen viewed this as a synthetic view where you were taking components and putting them together in a way that was not particularly helpful. And his repertory uses a dissociative repertorization, where instead of looking at lower right quadrant pain that is worse passing stool, he would have you looking at the modality of worse from stool and a laterality and a nature of discomfort. He would have you looking at all of those things separately. Benninghausen extrapolated all these components, and his therapeutic pocketbook is more granular than what we're used to seeing in Kent's repertory. Now, when I was studying originally, and until I met Heiner at this conference and talked with him, I honestly kind of thought that Benninghausen was old hat. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Benninghausen was pre-Freud. And after Freud, we started a much more mental, emotional emphasis on things. But Benninghausen had discovered something that is universal and useful in identifying accuracy, whether we're looking through emotional things, physical things, anything. And he called these polarities. Well, actually, Heiner named them polarities. Benninghausen just pointed them out. Have you ever noticed that a symptom can have a keynote like apis has the keynote of thirstlessness, right? Everybody learns apis is thirstless. But if you actually look in the Materia Medica and the repertory, you will also see it listed for thirst, thirsty, extreme thirst. Okay, so oftentimes a symptom will be included in both ways in a remedy. Better from movement, worse from movement, extremely thirsty, absolutely thirstless. And these, in Heiner's world, these were very much emphasized with a P, saying these are polars. And even though something is often in both poles, one of them is almost always much stronger than the other. So the reason why we know thirstlessness as a keynote of apis mellifica is because most of the time it's mostly thirstless. It's unusual in an apis client, possible but unusual, to have them be thirsty. What Benninghausen said was that the reliability goes way up when you choose remedies that emphasize the stronger pole. And that's why it's called polarity analysis, because you are going with the most reliable indicators, not the also sometimes indicators. So one of the other things this lets us do is see what is contraindicated. The polar symptoms let us see what the client's tipping point is on an axis of polarity. If our client is thirstless, then that means that the remedies that are predominantly thirsty are contraindicated. And in polarity analysis, these get marked out so that we don't have to go explore these. We don't spend time in our materia medica differential reading about these. So this idea of polarity analysis, all of it is based around these broad general indicators of the expression of the organism in its disease. And it shows us what things are most indicated and what things are contraindicated. So all of this was built into the therapeutic pocketbook, which was very popular during Benninghausen's time. And then Freud and Jung came along with a lot of ideas about the mental emotional state, and this became very dominant in our work. Now, Heiner Frey used Benninghausen's pocketbook for decades and he is a persistent, meticulous man, and he kept refining his approach. And he was convinced that these polarities and contraindications led you to the most therapeutically accurate method. And he worked with a developer to create some software that allowed him to use the therapeutic pocketbook as a tool. And he completed some research studies, which he presented when I met him at Liga. They're showing an 84% success rate, which was remarkable. I don't know that we have any other methodology. It may very well be that we have other methodologies, other approaches within homeopathy that get that level of success. But if so, I haven't seen published studies of them. So one of the things about Heiner is that he has a proven track record that he is very generously willing to share with a lot of other folks. One of the other things about polarity analysis that's fundamentally different, and this also comes from Benninghausen, is a way of getting accurate data from the client using questionnaires. And this isn't a questionnaire like a lot of people give out at the beginning of their work with a client where they say, you know, what medications are you on? And this is quite detailed about these types of general dissociative symptoms that Benninghausen found to be so important in polarities. So a lot of times our clients have symptoms that are not observed. They have modalities that they've never tested. Have you had a time where you're talking with a client who's got terrible jaw pain and you say, is it better if you put something warm on it? And they say, I don't know, I haven't tried. And so what Heiner does is engage the clients with these questionnaires, asking them to observe. What are the concomitants? What are the modalities? What are your symptoms? Really look at it. And when he implemented this and looked at his outcomes for clients with the questionnaire and without the questionnaire, he found that it was much more accurate. And so he gives these clients the questionnaires, instructs them, and says, observe your experience, mark it. When you come back, we'll work together with that data. The combination of engaging the client with specific types of questionnaires and evaluating the polarities, that's basically this method. So why do we bother? I've been using this as my primary method for about almost a year. I have a lot of complex cases and a lot of cases with strong mental emotional stuff, a lot of complex hormonal and endocrine issues. And I've found it to be incredibly effective at cutting through the complexity down to what Tim would call the bones of the case. And what I find is that they're very reliable outcomes. Now, in all honesty, when I first met Heiner at that Liga conference, he had made little jump drives with the polarity analysis software on it to give to every single person who came to the Liga conference, thousands of homeopaths that then took it all over the world. And a lot of people tried it a little bit. It was before he had published his text. And I tried it at the beginning. I got a few successes, a few hits, a few misses, and then I let it go. And Tim Shannon and I had some conversations about 2 years ago, getting close to 2 years ago, where he was so excited about this because he had been using it as his primary method exclusively for a few years and finding such good, consistent results. And I think that one of the things that has been frustrating to Heiner is that he's shown this concrete, specific method, and he's shown the really good outcomes, and there hasn't been a big uptake of this within the homeopathic community. And I think he's been a little puzzled about that. So Tim and I reached out to Heiner, and we put together a training program to help people get over the beginning trainer wheels. How do we do this into, yeah, I'm really seeing results, that has a teaching component, a clinical component, and a case supervision component. And we've been asking people, how has this helped you? What are you seeing now? And the things that they have told us that are the most helpful, one of them is that this system is uncanny in the way that you'll take a case maybe of somebody who's got heart arrhythmia, and there's no way to specifically repertorize the heart arrhythmia, but you actually look at all of the general expressions of the organism, and the heart remedies come right up to the front. It is uncanny, and it's so consistent. And one of the advantages of it is that there is a limited amount of materia medica that you have to study and become familiar with. So a lot of us spend a lot of time learning new materia medica. This is a closed system. And so there could be pros and cons about that, but I've found it to be a big advantage. And I have found that many of these remedies that are in the pocketbook apply in ways that I never knew them before. And I think that they are much fuller in what they can do than what we already know. That's been my experience with them. So another thing that really contributes to the reliable outcomes that's an advantage is that this method really generates a high level of cooperation between the client and the practitioner that leads you toward better outcomes. And by putting the symptoms into this software, it's just a different repertorization tool for the Benninghausen pocketbook. And for those of you who have Radar Opus, an older version of the software is built into Radar Opus. It highlights the polarities. We get to see, based on the polarities, what's the most likely, and what are the contraindications that are associated with that weaker pole that we shouldn't waste our time and the client's time giving them. So it's time efficient and it's accurate. So there are a lot of resources on Heiner Fry's website, which is right here. And he's got videos on YouTube. We've put some information up on the website polarityanalysis.com. And I would be glad to take questions now from everybody, and Tim and I can answer those with, whatever you've got. Basically, also, we have students from the earlier classes who have joined, and if you guys want to write something in chat about what your experience is with it, we'd be glad to have your comments there. But basically, that's what we got. This is a method. Can you explain your option 2 on the website? Yes. There are two different ways that people can enroll in the class. One option is just to purchase the class individually, and that's either $350 a month for a 3-month course, or it's $975, which is a discount if you just pay a whole lump sum. It's just one transaction. Or you can subscribe as a subscriber to the Trinity Health Hub, which is a virtual resource hub. And if you purchase an annual membership for the Trinity Health Hub, which costs $295, you can attend all of the series that happen in that year that you're subscribed. Now, the reason why it's set up in two different ways is because we are pursuing accreditation. We're going through the process now for ACHINA accreditation, and then we'll be getting holistic nursing and naturopathic and functional medicine, and all those things cost money. So if you need the continuing education credits for those, then you need to buy the course individually. If you enroll on the hub and you have access to these classes and all the other classes that are on the hub, then you don't get any continuing education credits. So it's much more affordable for people, which is something that we want, but you don't get any CEUs. Does that help, Suzanne? Does that answer your question? This course that starts in June 5th can be purchased either way. Yes, it can be purchased on the hub where you subscribe for a year for $295, or you can purchase it individually. Okay. That's a great question. Michelle says, how long is the course? Let me share the website and I can show you guys. Here you go. So this is the summer course, and it starts on Saturday, June 5th. All the Saturday sessions are half day, and they're half class, 2 hours of class and 2 hours of clinic for these first 4 Saturdays. And then these are just clinic days in August. And then the Thursday sessions are on Thursday evening. They start at 5 o'clock Pacific time, 8 o'clock East Coast time. I'm so sorry, it's late for you East Coasters. And the first hour is about the text and the software and how do we integrate it into our practice, the mechanics of it. And I teach those, followed by a 2-hour clinical session with Tim. And then there are Monday sessions that go from 1:30 to 3 in the afternoon, East Coast time, or 10:30 to noon Pacific time. And those are case supervision times where all the participants can schedule so that they can bring in their own client case and discuss with Tim and review things. So each course series includes 8 hours of training about the method from Tim, where he's really showing you how do I use this with clients. And then 6 hours of textbook and research with me, where I'm talking more about how do you think about this? How do you make it work in your practice? Because it's different. And then the case supervision. And then we have 12 sessions of clinic, which is 28 hours of clinic. So you actually see people in class. And if you want to refer a client of yours or a friend of yours to clinic, you can do that. We have lots of folks who are doing that. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Yvonne. I have a series of bookings on the 20. Oh, Ruth, you're asking about this specific Q&A, and is it going to be the same each time? That's what this class, this Q&A session is about, that class. Does that, I'm not quite sure that I understand, Ruth, what you mean, but this will be different information each time. So there's comments in the chat from Anna Balaji, who says she took these classes and it's a great way to learn this method. Watching live clinic cases helps to see how to use it in practice. And Deb says, you don't want to miss this opportunity to learn from Tim. If you put in the effort to learn PA and implement it with your clients, you'll get improved results with less effort, less time, and your confidence will increase. And we've heard this so many times from most of the students. You can use PA for acute as well as chronic. And you learn a lot from just watching Tim's case taking. Oh, and classes in clinic are recorded for later viewing. We don't record the case supervision because of HIPAA compliance issues. Oh, thank you, Michelle. That's a good question. Michelle says, how much is the software? It's $12 a month, but when you're enrolled in the class, you get software for free for 4 months. So you can decide, do I like this? Do I don't? After those 4 months, then you can purchase the software if you want to continue with it or not. Okay. Are there other questions? The clinic is online, yes. And if you want to refer a patient, we see them through Zoom. Yes, that's true. We have a HIPAA compliant Zoom meeting platform. And yep, so everybody gets to see them, but the client doesn't have to see everybody there. And the sessions are recorded. So if, given this is 3 months long, surely there's going to be some time when you got to be somewhere else. You don't have to worry about it. The sessions are recorded and you have a chance to go back and view them later. And also there's a discussion forum on the hub where people can write in their comments about cases and questions. And Tim is like the most Johnny on the spot guy about getting stuff back there. Tim, we've just got 1 minute left, but I would love it if your audio is doing well. If you can just give us 1 minute about why you love PA.
Well, actually, I would say, I think you already covered that. I think the key thing about the class is it's the ultimate training, ironically, because of Zoom. Because when of course, the clinic part is the most important because you actually see live patients, just like we're talking now, who present with who knows what the pathology is. And the thing that's unique about this training, which I wish I would have gotten in my homeopathy training, is that when a patient comes on, I'm taking the case and everybody gets to watch that as if you're over the shoulder and watching the whole process. And then the other cool advantage is as we're doing the live analysis, which is the same analysis I do day in and day out in my own clinic, I can share that on the screen. And so students also watch that dynamically change as the patient is explaining their issue. And then all the colleagues get to see the patient come back for a follow-up, and they get to see what it looks like, what we mean when we say good outcomes. You get to see the thoroughness with which we're saying this is a good outcome or not. And the colleagues also get to see when I don't get it right on the first or second try, what I have to do to pivot and find a solution, and then see the patient finally come back and be better. And so you get to see the whole live process. So it's a totally divergent from just reading a book and trying to do it on your own. You get to see over and over again with multiple different pathologies, mental health issues, physical issues, a range of different issues, how it actually works in real time. Right. Which to me is like, where else do you get that? Almost every class you see, some guys cherry picking their best cases and you learn from it, but you don't see real life cases in most cases. I mean, I know there's some exceptions, but to me, this is the premier way to really learn something. It's sort of like preceptoring live with a doctor who is getting good outcomes.
Right, and you're able to bring your cases to clinic. If you have a case that you're really stuck on, You can ask Marjorie to schedule that client into clinic. And this is one of the things that's happened with the earlier cohorts where people have brought their difficult cases into clinic. And not your own case, Lord, please don't, but your clients' cases into clinic. And we've been able to see what happens with those. So guys, we got to close. If you're interested, and if there's anything we didn't answer, please email Marjorie, and I put her email into, sorry, Marjorie, I put her email into the chat, marjorie@trinityhealthhub.com. And if you've got any questions, she'll reach out to you. And, Tim and I are here to help Heiner. And Heiner gave a big shout out to our training program at the JAHC conference because he's only one guy and he can't be everywhere doing anything. He's written textbooks, done research studies, but he needs some help. And to have the opportunity to be in the trenches with an experienced practitioner. Sorry, Tim, I don't mean to imply that you live in the trench, but all of us, can be there with you doing your work. Okay, so thanks to everybody. Thank you, Tim. And if you got more questions and you want to know more, we're going to do this once a month. Let other people know about it. It'll be a little different each time. And if you're interested, sign up and we'll see you on June 5th. All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye.